Maxim's copper kettle clanged loudly against the stove as Oksana slammed it down onto the gas burner. She turned sharply toward her mother, arms folded across her chest, her dark, piercing stare promising nothing good. Varvara sat at the kitchen table in silence, methodically sorting dry sprigs of thyme, avoiding her daughter's face at all costs. "Have you lost your mind, mother?" Oksana's voice rose sharply, echoing through the summer kitchen. "A wedding at 70? You and Grandpa Petro want to turn the whole village into a laughingstock." Varvara slowly set the herbs onto a sheet of newspaper. Her thin, age-worn fingers trembled slightly, but her voice remained calm. "Don't shout, Oksana. The neighbors will hear." She looked up with a tired sigh. "And Petro isn't a grandpa. He's 75. He's still perfectly able-bodied. We simply want to live together and grow old like human beings, not howl like wolves alone in empty houses." "Like human beings?" Oksana laughed nervously, stepping closer to the table. "Did you think about me? About your grandchildren? We worked ourselves to the bone here, repaired your house, built the fence, and now you're going to leave everything to some stranger? What does the house have to do with this?" Varvara frowned, bitterness spreading through her chest. "No one is leaving anything to anyone. We just want to get married so we can be family, so I have the right to visit him in the hospital if something happens, and so he can be by my side." "I know all about your romantic fantasies," the daughter snapped, bracing both hands on the table. "Today you get married, and tomorrow his son Taras will come running to split the property. I won't allow it. Do you hear me? You are not going anywhere and you are signing nothing." Oksana abruptly turned, grabbed her leather bag from the stool, and left, slamming the door so hard the old windows rattled. Varvara was left alone. She sat in silence, listening to the kettle boil, and felt a lonely tear creep down her cheek. 70 years old. Was that really a sentence? Was there no longer any room in life for warmth, for quiet conversation before bed, for someone simply handing you a cup of water and asking how your day went? Her husband had died 10 years earlier. The children had scattered. Oksana lived in the city and only came on weekends to collect fresh vegetables and preserves. The grandchildren were grown, they had their own lives. Their grandmother was useful only when they needed someone to watch the little ones or to hand over a bit of pension money. Varvara had grown used to loneliness and accepted it as her fate, until one spring evening when she struck up a conversation through the fence with her neighbor. Petro was a widower too. His wife had died of illness 5 years earlier. At first they only exchanged greetings. Then Petro helped fix the gate. Then Varvara treated him to a freshly baked cherry pie. And so it began. They would stand for hours at the border between their gardens, leaning on wooden posts, talking about everything in the world. Seed prices, the weather, old memories, the lives they had lived. Later Petro started coming over for tea. He was a quiet, sensible man with rough, work-scarred hands and very kind eyes. Beside him, Varvara began to feel like a woman again, not just a free household attachment to the family house. At that same time, a similar drama was unfolding next door. Petro sat on the porch of his brick house, slowly carving a wooden spatula he had promised to make for Varvara. Opposite him, his son Taras paced the yard nervously. Taras was about 50. He owned his own auto repair shop in the city and was used to solving everything quickly and harshly. "Dad, you're killing me with this news." Taras stopped and lit a cigarette, blowing the smoke toward the blooming apple tree. "What love? What wedding? Have you seen yourselves in the mirror? You need your blood pressure checked every morning, not dates." Petro set down the knife and looked at his son carefully. "I do check my pressure, Taras, and I take my pills," he replied calmly. "But this is my life. I raised you, got you on your feet, helped you buy your apartment in Chernivtsi, and now I want to live for myself. I'm good with Varvara. She's a kind woman. A real homemaker." "Homemaker, huh?" Taras snorted, flicking ash onto the clean path. You didn't think about the fact that Oksana is probably dreaming of getting her hands on your land? Once you get the marriage certificate and Varvara becomes the first heir, everything will go to that snake. Oksana. You want to leave your own son penniless in old age? Don't be ridiculous. Petro's face darkened, and his voice grew firmer. No one is after your property. Varvara and I made our decision. Each of us keeps what is ours. The houses will go to you, just as planned. We only want to live under one roof, legally, before God and people. Words don't mean anything, Dad. Taras threw his cigarette to the ground and ground it out with his shoe. I won't let this circus happen. If I have to, I'll have you declared incompetent through the court. What? At your age, blood vessels get weak. Who knows what's happened to your head? Petro slowly stood up. His back, usually bent, straightened now. He stepped right up to his son and looked him in the eye. Get off my yard, Taras. And until you learn to speak respectfully to your father, don't come back. Taras curled his lips, muttered something under his breath, turned sharply, and walked to his car. A moment later the expensive SUV kicked up a cloud of dust and disappeared, leaving the yard in silence. Petro sank back onto the porch step, feeling his heart tighten painfully in his chest. He had not expected this from his son. He had not thought that money and hectares of land could become more valuable than a father's happiness. That evening, when the sun dipped below the horizon and the village was wrapped in cool darkness, Varvara quietly stepped into the backyard. She went to the old fence thick with lilac bushes. Petro was already waiting there. They had not arranged it, but the habit of meeting at this boundary had become their small secret. Did he come? Varvara asked softly, leaning against the wooden slats. He came, Petro answered just as quietly, covering her dry hand with his own heavy, warm one. He shouted, threatened me with court. He's afraid I'll give your Oksana the garden. Varvara gave a bitter smile in the dark. Mine did a whole performance today too. Says we'll make a fool of the whole village. She's so obsessed with the inheritance, you'd think I was a millionaire. Petro, what have we done so wrong that our own children see us as enemies? Petro stroked her fingers and looked up at the starry sky. Nothing wrong, Varu. It's just that to them we're no longer people with feelings. We're property. Inventory. They're used to us being convenient, always here to help, to give money, to sit with the little ones. But the moment we wanted a little happiness of our own, we became inconvenient. What do we do now? Her voice trembled. Oksana said she won't let you out of the house. She'll probably hide your passport. She can do that. She already searched my chest once. I thought she was looking for money for gas, but maybe she was checking the documents. Petro frowned. He disliked that detail very much. He understood that Taras and Oksana, despite their mutual dislike, could unite for one shared goal. To separate them. And he was right. The next day, around noon, Taras stopped his car by the village store. He had come to the village in the middle of the week on purpose after learning that Oksana had taken a day off and stayed with her mother to tidy up. She had just stepped out of the shop with a bag of groceries when Taras blocked her path. Good afternoon, neighbor, he said, not removing his sunglasses. We need to talk about our young lovers. Oksana stopped and looked at him warily. She couldn't stand Taras' arrogance, but now she sensed they had a common interest. I'm listening, she said shortly, moving into the shade of a spreading chestnut tree. Your mother has completely muddled my father's head, Taras began without preamble. You understand what this means. They'll get married, and tomorrow one of them will be gone, and then the lawsuits over the property will begin. I don't need these problems. I assume you don't either. My mother. Your father. You were the one who started paying court to her, Oksana snapped, but quickly pulled herself together. Still, you got the point. I'm not sharing my father's house with anyone. What do you suggest? We isolate them from each other. You watch yours, I'll watch mine. And most importantly, take her passport and the documents for the house. No papers, no applications to the registry office. I already took everything from my father last night while he was asleep. I told him I was taking it in for pension paperwork. He believed me, though he was angry. Oksana slowly nodded, weighing the plan. It was cruel. She knew that. Taking documents from her mother was like stripping away her identity. But the fear of losing the inheritance was stronger than her conscience. Fine, she said, adjusting the strap of her bag on her shoulder. I'll find her passport. They won't leave the yard. They played at romance long enough. They're too old for nonsense now. That same evening Varvara was busy in the garden, tying up tomatoes. She felt an inexplicable anxiety pressing like a stone on her heart. When she returned to the house earlier than planned to drink some water, she heard rustling in her own bedroom. She quietly approached the half-open door and froze. Oksana was kneeling by the old oak chest where Varvara kept her most precious things. Holiday towels, photographs, and a small wooden box with documents. Her daughter was frantically sorting through the papers and throwing them onto the floor. What are you looking for, my daughter? Varvara asked softly. Oksana flinched and turned sharply. Her face flushed with embarrassment for a moment, but she quickly collected herself and stood, hiding something in the pocket of her blouse. I was looking for your medical card, Mom, she lied quickly, avoiding her mother's eyes. I wanted to take you to a cardiologist in the city. Your blood pressure is always jumping. Varvara stepped closer. Her gaze fell on the empty box. There was no passport. No state land deed either. She looked at her daughter, and there was so much pain and disappointment in her eyes that Oksana briefly felt ashamed. But only briefly. Give it back, Varvara said firmly, holding out her hand. No, Mom. Oksana took a step back. This is for your own good. You don't understand what you're doing. Petro is using you so he can have a free caretaker in old age. I'm not going to let you ruin everything my father built. Your father? Varvara smiled bitterly. He left me alone 10 years ago. And for those 10 years I carried this household so you would have somewhere to come on weekends, eat, and fill your trunk with potatoes. And now I'm some foolish child to you, one whose passport must be hidden. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, Oksana said coldly, ignoring her mother's words. I'll take the documents with me to the city. Once you calm down and get these foolish ideas out of your head, I'll return them. She quickly left the room, leaving Varvara alone among the scattered old photographs. Varvara slowly sat down on the bed. It felt as if the walls of her native home, which had always protected her, had now become a prison. She took out an old mobile phone, a basic push-button model she had learned to use only a few years earlier, and dialed Petro's number. Petro, she took my documents, Varvara whispered when she heard his voice. Oksana found them in the chest. She says she'll take them to the city. There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line. Then Petro answered in a low voice. Taras did the same. He stole my papers and lied about the pension paperwork. They've conspired, Varu. Our own children have united against us. What do we do? Her voice broke. Are we really going to let them do this to us? Petro was silent for a long time. Varvara could hear his heavy breathing, and then he said the last thing she had expected from her usually cautious, calm neighbor. No, Varu, we won't let them. We are not serfs to be traded and ordered around. Do you have a new passport? The one in the ID card form you made last year when you lost the old one? Yes, Varvara replied, surprised. Oksana doesn't know about it. It's in the pocket of my winter coat. I put it there so I wouldn't lose it again. Good. My foreign passport is still in the top drawer of the table. Taras didn't notice it because he was looking for the blue booklet. Legally, we can file the applications with these documents. Where would we file them, Petro? In our village council, Tara's friend is the head there. He'll call him immediately. Not in the village, Petro said firmly. We'll pack some things, call a taxi to the highway, and go to Chernivtsi. There we'll go to the registry office, get married, and then we'll go for a walk. Remember how you once told me you loved the botanical garden near the university in your youth? There's an old conservatory there. We'll go there. Let them search the wind in the field while they realize we are living people, not inventory. Varvara's heart began to beat so hard it felt like she was 20 again. It was madness. Real madness for two elderly people with a handful of illnesses to flee their own home at night, hiding from their own children. But in that madness there was so much life, so much freedom, that she felt the tears drying on her cheeks. When? She asked. Tonight, Petro replied. Oksana is sleeping in the sitting room, yes? Pack the essentials. A change of clothes, your medicine, the money you saved. At 3 a.m. I'll wait for you beyond the gardens by the old willow. A taxi will be waiting at the crossroads by the sowing fields. I understand. I'll be there. She put the phone on the nightstand and took a deep breath. Fear was gone. In its place came a cold, focused determination. Varvara waited until the house fell into absolute silence, broken only by Oksana's steady breathing from the next room. Then, quietly, trying not to make the floorboards creak, she took a small travel bag from the wardrobe. Into it she placed her blood pressure pills, a clean blouse, a pair of socks, and her old wallet with the savings. She felt the plastic passport card in the pocket of her winter coat, her ticket to freedom. Every movement was careful, but confident. She did not feel guilty. Her children had crossed the line themselves when they decided they had the right to control her life for the sake of a few square meters. At 3 a.m., Varvara was ready. She threw a dark scarf over her shoulders, picked up the bag, and silently opened the window in her bedroom that faced the garden. The door would have been too risky. The old lock would have creaked loudly. Climbing out of a window at 70 was no easy task, but adrenaline did its work. She swung her legs over the sill, landed softly on the loose soil of the flower bed, and straightened her aching back. The night was cool and moonless. The village slept deeply. Varvara made her way between currant and raspberry bushes, trying not to touch the branches. Her heart pounded in her chest like a bird in a cage. By the old willow, leaning over a small stream, she saw a dark silhouette. Petro was waiting for her, holding a small sports backpack. He stepped toward her, gently took her bag, and with his free hand squeezed hers tightly. You made it, he whispered, and in his voice Varvara heard the same tenderness and worry she had missed for so many years. Yes, she whispered back, catching her breath. Like a thief fleeing my own house. We're not stealing, Petro said firmly, pulling her with him along the path toward the highway. We're taking back what's ours. Our right to happiness. Come on, the car is waiting. They walked along the field road, and the night dew soaked their shoes. Ahead, the faint lights of the highway flickered, while behind them lay the unknown. But for the first time in a very long while, Varvara did not feel afraid of the future. She gripped Petro's hand more tightly, knowing they still had a battle ahead. But they would face it together. In the morning, the children would wake up and find empty beds. And then the real storm would begin. But the old couple would already be far away. They drove to Chernivtsi to prove to everyone, and above all to themselves, that love has no expiration date, and that no intrigue, greed, or age can erase what two lonely souls have finally found in each other. The taxi hummed steadily with its old engine, cutting through the pre-dawn fog with yellow headlights. Outside, dark silhouettes of trees rushed by along the roadside, like silent guardians of their escape. Varvara sat in the back seat, holding her travel bag tightly to her chest. Her breathing gradually steadied, though her heart still thudded near her throat. Petro sat beside her. His broad shoulder rested securely against hers, giving her a sense of protection she had not known for an eternity. The driver, an elderly man in a worn leather jacket, silently turned the wheel and occasionally glanced at the unusual passengers in his rearview mirror. He was used to carrying all kinds of people at such an early hour, but these two old people, who had boarded in secrecy beyond the village, inspired in him quiet respect and curiosity. Chernivtsi greeted them with coolness and damp cobblestones. The city was just beginning to wake up. Sparse streetlights illuminated the old building facades, balcony stucco, and heavy oak entrance doors. The taxi stopped near the central square, by a small all-night bakery, where the smell of fresh bread, cinnamon, and hot coffee drifted through the street. Petro paid the driver, carefully,